Celtic supporters, what an absolute whirlwind these last few days have been. The atmosphere surrounding the club has shifted in a way you can feel in every conversation, every walk up to the stadium, and every challenge still to come. Not long ago, the mood was heavy with doubt, that quiet fear that the season might slip away before anyone could steady it. But the arrival of Martin O'Neill as temporary manager has changed almost everything far more quickly than most expected. When he stepped in, supporters were split. Everyone respects the man and his history, but there were real questions about what he could actually build in such a delicate moment. Yet, it took only a handful of matches to notice that something different was happening. The results improved, yes, but more than that, the spirit inside the team shifted as if they'd rediscovered a clear reason to pull together again. It's remarkable how the players seem to respond to his presence. It's not just what they're doing on the pitch, it's their attitude, their intensity, the sense of unity that had felt like it was slipping away in recent months. Some fans still argue about whether he should stay until the end of the season, but most understand that his spell is part of something bigger, laying the groundwork for a new cycle. And even with the affection people have for him, it feels obvious he's not interested in taking the job on a permanent basis. He's someone who stepped in to help, to lift the mood, to restore belief, and who seems ready to close the chapter with dignity when the time comes. There are those who wonder if he might be tempted to stay on because emotions run deep at this club, but there's also a strong sense that he knows exactly when to step aside, especially when his work has been done well. The debate over the new manager dominates every discussion, and every day brings a fresh opinion. Many supporters believe that if the club really has chosen Wilfried Nancy, then the earlier he takes over, the better it'll be for preparing the remainder of the season. The thinking is simple. If he's the man for the long term, he should have time to shape the team, establish his style, and settle in before the biggest fixtures arrive. But others prefer the idea of keeping O'Neill in place until the dust settles, pointing out that there's a cup final coming up and a direct clash with Hearts that could define the entire title race. And when a team has finally found a bit of stability again, it's only natural for people to worry about changing too much just as things begin to click. Still, there's no denying that the arrival of a permanent manager would bring fresh momentum, especially with the possibility of him stepping straight into a chance to win silverware. It's a rare situation to come in, lift a trophy, and win over the support with immediate authority. And for many, that matters, not only for the fans, but for the players as well, who seem to need a clear, long-term leader for everything that's still ahead this season. The pressure is enormous because the team has rediscovered a run of victories, and stepping in now carries extra responsibility. No one would be coming in to rescue a sinking ship, but rather to improve one that has already righted itself and begun moving again. The most recent match showed exactly how strong the spirit inside the squad is. Even without starting well, Celtic managed to score twice in a matter of minutes, reminding the opposition that they need very little time to flip a game on its head and seize control. The energy inside the stadium changed instantly, fear dissolving into full-throated excitement. For anyone who's followed this club for years, these quick turnarounds bring back memories of earlier periods when the team played with enormous belief in its own ability. And although the performance wasn't perfect, there was clear focus, organization, and determination. The first half included spells of beautiful passing football, including that move which could easily have been one of the best team goals of the past year, when everything flowed with pace and intelligence. The ball zipped from foot to foot with such elegant simplicity that only the final touch was missing. The second half told a different story. The control faded, the opposition gained confidence, and the pressure began to mount, as it so often does in that ground. Celtic couldn't keep hold of the midfield the way they had earlier, and the match grew more tense with each passing minute. It was one of those away fixtures where nobody breathes until the final whistle. Yet even under that pressure, the team held firm. The centre-backs were solid, reading every dangerous moment with calm, and Schmeichel showed exactly why he remains so dependable, pulling off saves that preserved the lead when things could easily have gone the other way. In moments like those, it's not just about technique, it's experience, composure, knowing when to push forward and when to defend the box with absolutely everything. There were controversial moments too, as there always are in tight matches. The penalty given against Scales sparked plenty of debate because depending on the angle, the ball seems to hit more shoulder than arm. But with the rules becoming more unclear each season, nearly everything comes down to interpretation, and interpretation always leads to confusion. Inside the stadium, the reaction was immediate frustration, but hearing the player himself admit he suspected it might get reviewed just shows how even the footballers no longer know the criteria. Still, even after that decision, the team kept their cool, which only reinforces how much more emotionally mature the squad looks now. Later on, there was another moment when Yang was clipped after challenging for the ball, a type of contact that would likely be given as a foul anywhere else on the pitch. It wasn't called and play went on, but moments like that can completely shift a sense of fairness in a match. Even so, despite the nerves and the rising tension, the final feeling was one of relief, of a job well done, of a victory that genuinely means something. There were celebrations on the pitch, hugs that lasted longer than usual, and a clear sense that these 3 points weren't just numbers on the table, they were a statement of strength. The league table has become incredibly tight. Hearts, despite some strong performances, have started to stumble, and Celtic have taken full advantage of every slip to close the gap. A difference that looked unreachable just weeks ago has suddenly vanished, turning the title race into something entirely new. What once looked like a comfortable lead for Hearts has become a proper battle again, with Celtic emerging once more as direct contenders. Now, with a game in hand and a real chance to overtake the leaders in the head-to-head clash, expectation is rising, and so is the weight on every match still to come. And as we move into these next crucial weeks, there's a real sense that the season is balancing on a knife edge. Every training session suddenly feels sharper. Every injury update seems twice as important, and every rumor about the incoming manager gets debated like it's the final piece of the puzzle. Supporters can feel the tension building, but it's not the bleak kind. It's that charged excitement you get when you sense the team is gathering momentum at exactly the right moment. It's funny how football works. A few results, a few performances with heart, and suddenly a club that felt like it was drifting starts to look alive again. Even the players' body language tells the story. You can see it in the way they celebrate tackles, the way substitutes rise off the bench after a big moment, the way O'Neill claps and shouts with that familiar fire in his eyes. It's as if the whole club has woken up just when they needed it most. There's also something incredibly Celtic about stepping into chaos and somehow turning it into purpose. This club has never taken the easy road, never coasted through a season without drama. and never backed down from a race that seemed out of reach. The supporters know that, the players know that, and even someone stepping in temporarily like O'Neill knows that better than most. That's why, even with all the uncertainty around the long-term plan, there's a deep trust in the process unfolding right now. People can feel that the team is reconnecting with its identity, the intensity, the quick passing, the relentless pressure, the refusal to accept defeat even for a second. And no matter who the new manager ends up being, they'll walk into a dressing room that's far more alive now than it was just a few weeks ago. At the same time, no one is under any illusions. The run ahead is brutal, and the margin for error has shrunk to almost nothing. Celtic can't afford the sloppy spells that hurt them earlier in the season. They can't afford dips in concentration, can't afford days when the finishing is wasteful, and can't afford long stretches of possession with no real bite. Hearts might be wobbling, but they're still in the fight, and Rangers, whether people want to admit it or not, will always be lurking, ready to pounce the second either side slips. That's why every match feels like a final, and that's why, even if O'Neill is only passing through, his impact on the mentality of the squad could be what saves the season. He's brought the edge back, that sense of we go again that defines the club at its best. If the next manager can take that and build on it, Celtic will be frightening again. But football has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. There's still the question of January, of signings, departures, and whether the board will fully back the new coach from day one. Supporters are already debating what areas need strengthening, whether the midfield needs another dominant presence, whether the backline needs another leader, and whether the attack needs someone who brings something completely different. And while O'Neill won't be the man making long-term decisions, he has already influenced the squad simply through the standards he demands. Players who looked flat or unsure earlier in the campaign suddenly look hungry again. Some have played their way back into relevance. Others have realized they need to fight harder to keep their place. That competitive edge is priceless, and it will make the next manager's job far easier. One of the most fascinating aspects of these past weeks is how quickly supporters have reconnected emotionally with the team. There's a real tenderness in the relationship between fans and club when moments like this unfold. People know O'Neill isn't here for glory or legacy. He's here out of love, out of loyalty, out of a deep bond with Celtic. That time hasn't erased. That alone has softened the mood around the club. Supporters who were angry a month ago now sing with their hearts full. The frustration that had been building for weeks has evaporated into hope. And it's not blind hope either. It's grounded in what they're seeing on the pitch. They're seeing pressing again, passing patterns that make sense again, leadership again. They're seeing the noise inside Celtic Park returning to the level it should always be, and they're daring to believe that the season can transform from a crisis story into one of those unforgettable comebacks that supporters will talk about for years. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. The footballing gods don't hand out titles because you've rediscovered your spirit. It has to be earned, and Celtic still have a mountain to climb. But there's something undeniably powerful about timing. And right now, the timing feels right. It feels like the squad has clicked at the exact moment the pressure rose. It feels like the fans have found their voice again at the exact moment the team needed them. And it feels like O'Neill has steadied the ship at the exact moment it needed someone with his calm, his experience, and his fire. It's almost poetic in a way. This legend stepping back into the light, reminding everyone of what Celtic is supposed to be, and doing it not with speeches, but with organization, passion, and belief. The upcoming fixtures will shape the entire story. There's the showdown with Hearts, a match that could rewrite the narrative of the league in 90 minutes. There's the cup final, a chance to lift silverware and cement the revival. There are away trips that will test every ounce of resilience this team has rediscovered. And hanging above all of it is the question, when will the new manager step through the doors? Will he inherit a team that's flying, ready to strike, or will he be thrown straight into the fire with everything on the line? The timing will matter, not just for results, but for momentum, for trust, for how the dressing room reacts in the weeks that follow. But no matter how unpredictable the next chapter looks, one thing is absolutely clear. Celtic are alive again. They're fighting, they're believing, they're playing with a pulse that had been missing, and supporters who never truly lose faith, even when they're furious, are rallying behind the team with that unmistakable roar that sounds like hope turning into reality. In the end, that's what makes this club special. Not perfection, not calm, not easy victories, but the fire, the defiance, the refusal to let a season die without giving everything, absolutely everything, to bring it back to life. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. A low rumble has been rolling through Glasgow since the early hours, and by mid-morning, it had grown into a full-blown roar. Word drifting out of Parkhead suggests something close to unthinkable. Andrew Robertson, Scotland's own marauding left-back, is said to have put pen to paper with Celtic. Nothing official has emerged, no green-tinted announcement video, no grand unveiling, just whispers carried on the wind, but the noise is loud enough that the city cannae help but buzz. Folk close to the club insist the deal has been kept under wraps for weeks, guarded tighter than a Derby Day marking job. One source claims the player was spotted slipping through a side entrance at Lennoxtown under a hood. Another swears they saw a familiar stride near Celtic Park. Most of it could easily be wishful thinking, but the kind that feels just plausible enough to set pulses racing. After all, Robertson grew up not far from these streets, and the notion of him pulling on the hoops has long lived in the dreams of supporters. Inside pubs, from the Gaubles to the Gallowgate, the chat has turned feverish. Some punters are convinced this is the shock signing to end all shock signings, the sort that shifts the balance of power before a ball's even kicked. Others caution it might be nothing more than a gust of exaggerated gossip, the type that sweeps through the city every so often and leaves everyone arguing over nothing. Still, even the skeptics admit the rumor has a different weight to it, as though there's more than just smoke in the air this time. If true, it would be a move to shake Scottish football to its core, a homecoming draped in green and white. The idea alone has sent fans into a frenzy, imagining Robertson bombing down the flank, roaring on the faithful as if he'd never left. Until anything's confirmed, it remains just that, a whisper, a murmur, a tantalizing hint of something massive brewing behind closed doors. But for now, Glasgow is alive with the possibility, and the city seems to be holding its breath, waiting to see if the rumor of the decade becomes reality. Hello, fan, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.